So this is an economic boon to all of Pennsylvania, regardless of where you live. And when you have that sort of thing coming together, it's very easy for a Democrat and a Republican to get together and go, hey, how can we best oversee this and make sure that the roadblocks that other states might run into aren't going to exist here in Pennsylvania.
That's Pennsylvania Congressman Russ Diamond, who is forming an industrial hemp caucus in the Pennsylvania State House with fellow Congresswoman Margo Davidson. This is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock, and today I talked to Margo Davidson and Russ Diamond about the Hemp Caucus and what it will mean for hemp farmers and for the hemp industry in general here in Pennsylvania. Then we'll talk to John Crye from a company in Kentucky called Hempwood, which is making wood from hemp fibers. We're going to take a quick sponsor break and then come back with some hemp news nuggets and some upcoming hemp events, and then we'll get into the interviews. This episode is sponsored by Lancaster DHIA's Hemp Survivors Workshop, February 27th in Smoketown, Pennsylvania. Designed to help you make sense of 2019 and make a plan for 2020, the Hemp Survivors Workshop gets into the economics of hemp, harvesting and processing, how the new rules affect variety selection, plus a discussion of safety testing consumables, because the public needs to know if your product is safe. Register now for Lancaster DHIA's Hemp Survivors Workshop. Call 888-202-3442. This episode is brought to you in part by King's Agri-Seeds, your source for premium forage, cover crop, and now industrial hemp seeds. King's is excited to offer Auto CBD, an auto flower variety that comes to full maturity in 75 days, allowing for early harvest and succession planting. Avoid the harvest and process bottlenecks by adding Auto CBD to your lineup. Call 717-687-6224 or go to kingsagriseeds.com/hemp for more information. Okay, welcome back. So, the USDA has been busy working on their hemp plans. Last week, they announced that hemp farmers can now take part in 2 different crop insurance programs that cover natural disasters. The first is the multi-peril crop insurance program, which provides coverage for losses from weather, fire, disease, and other natural events. This is for fiber grain and CBD growers. The second is the non-insured crop disaster assistance program, which provides coverage against loss for fiber grain and CBD hemp. In 2020, where no permanent federal crop insurance program is available, I will have a link to more information on lancasterfarming.com for the show page for this episode. The USDA also says that it might consider some flexibility on testing and sampling of hemp, but that a change in the 0.3% THC limit would require an act of Congress. So until Mitch McConnell wants to grow some of those varieties of concern, it looks like we're stuck at 0.3%.
Industrial hemp.
Also, I wanted to let you know about some upcoming hemp events here in Pennsylvania. So as you heard in the sponsor message, the Lancaster DHIA is hosting a Hemp Survivors Workshop on February 27th. On March 4th, there is the Keystone Hemp Conference in Lancaster. On March 7th, there is a Hempcrete Workshop in Kennett Square, Chester County, Pennsylvania. On March 11th, Penn State Lehigh Valley is hosting a Business of Cannabis Symposium in Center Valley, PA. And on March 13th, there is a Hemporium at Kutztown University in Berks County. And also the weekend of April 17th, there is the OpCanna Conference and Seed Sale, promoting sustainable hemp, fiber, flour, and grain. That's at the Shawnee Inn and Golf Resort up in the Poconos. I will have links to all of these events on the show page for this episode at lancasterfarming.com. If you have a hemp event coming up, send me an email, podcast@lancasterfarming.com. All right, so let's get into our interviews. My guests today are Representative Margo Davidson, a Democrat from the 164th Legislative District in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, and Representative Russ Diamond, a Republican from the 102nd Legislative District in Lebanon County, PA. Good morning, Representatives Davidson and Diamond.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. Thank you both for taking time out of your busy schedules to talk to me today. So, it is my understanding that the two of you are forming an informal hemp caucus in the Pennsylvania State House. Can you explain how that idea came about and what you hope to achieve?
Take it away, Russ. It's great.
Well, look, I think everybody remembers that, it was my bill that brought industrial hemp back to Pennsylvania through the research provisions of the Federal Farm Bill from 2014. And we've seen this industry start to try to bloom. And Margo came to me on the House floor and said, "Hey, I think we should start an informal industrial hemp caucus." We have many different informal caucuses with specific interests in it, and I thought it was a great idea because as this burgeoning infant industry starts to take off, we may need to educate our fellow legislators about what's going on in the industry and what legislatively we might be able to do to break down barriers and to accelerate this burgeoning industry into the billion-dollar industry it's eventually going to be.
That is absolutely right. And I've been in the legislature since 2010. I was a part of the hearings. At one point, I was in the formal agricultural committee. There were joint hearings between the House and the Senate. I attended many of those hearings, and I saw a great vision for being able to synergize urban and rural economies through farming, manufacturing, distribution. There are so many products that could be made from hemp. And the legislature and Pennsylvania legislature was very smart. And you won't hear many of us say that very often. But we were very smart in that we did work with the federal government. At the same time, we were developing the Pennsylvania bill to make sure that the federal government would allow us to farm, to produce hemp products and to grow hemp plants in Pennsylvania. And so we were chosen as one of the pilot states, and it's been a great pilot. And now we're really ready to grow this industry.
So it's really refreshing to hear about common ground in these times of intense partisan division. Mm-hmm. What is it about hemp that makes it a bipartisan or nonpartisan issue?
Well, I actually think, look, it's agriculture. And to begin with, agriculture is pretty much a nonpartisan issue in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is blessed. We have our state Department of Agriculture is not just respected around the nation for what it does and the procedures it puts forth and best practices and that sort of thing, but it's respected around the world. So we are blessed with that here in Pennsylvania. And, so agriculture itself is basically a nonpartisan issue because everybody needs to eat. And that's really what agriculture is ultimately all about. Obviously, with industrial hemp, we can go in many different directions because fiber and seed, I think, are the bread and butter of this industry. We're not really seeing that yet because, again, it's an industry that's in its infancy. We are seeing a kind of a boom and a bubble thing with the CBD products. But I think that in Pennsylvania, because of our reputation with our Department of Agriculture worldwide, I think that in Pennsylvania, we have the ability to become the leader and the trendsetter and the threshold setter for best practices when it comes to growing hemp and producing all the products. And then you go on from that, then we're talking about jobs because in order to manufacture something out of hemp, you need extraction, you need, processes, that sort of thing. So there's a great ripple effect in jobs. And as Margo pointed out, those jobs are going to be set in some urban areas. They're going to be set in some suburban areas. They're going to be set in some rural areas. So this is an economic boon to all of Pennsylvania, regardless of where you live. And when you have that sort of thing coming together, it's very easy for a Democrat and a Republican to get together and go, hey, how can we best oversee this and make sure that the roadblocks that other states might run into aren't going to exist here in Pennsylvania?
And that's why the marriage is just so great, because we have 33% of the economy comes out of the southeastern area. Pennsylvania is also the home to two first-class cities, really world-renowned. Pittsburgh is doing amazing things in terms of growing industry for healthcare, and there's so many other things. Philadelphia, of course, is a mecca in Pennsylvania, and I'm in the suburbs just outside of Philadelphia. I'm actually the Southeast Caucus chair, which includes 8 counties outside of Philadelphia. And so you really have that really great marriage where we can have manufacturing, we can have agriculture growing these plants, manufacturing, and then you need a marketplace to sell all the products to once they're manufactured. And we could start in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and the suburban areas, and then the world. And so that's a lot of jobs. That's a lot of that's a lot of places where we can begin to expand the hemp industry.
So as you both mentioned, industrial hemp has the potential for many things, not the least of which is to strengthen communities by bringing jobs to both rural and urban communities. Can you talk specifically about how your work will facilitate the growth of the industry and how we can develop the local supply chains necessary to connect the rural and urban communities?
Well, I think that's the whole point of this caucus is to have all our members in the legislature, whether they're members of our caucus or not, will be the ambassadors for hemp then to the members who aren't, to understand what the roadblocks are and what we need to do in Pennsylvania in order to get this burgeoning industry up and running. I mean, we're entering into our second year of commercial production here in Pennsylvania. There were some stumbling blocks for some people in the first year. It's like any other crop in that it's not like if you plant it, they will come. I mean, you really have to have a supply chain developed before you even put the seeds in the ground. I know that there's some farmers out there who stumbled over that little thing in the last year because, some people got really excited about the chance to sell for CBD production purposes. And, there's some market pressures going on there where they didn't actually have somebody lined up. And, they're trying to store that product over the winter to maybe sell it in this season. And what we really need is for people to understand that this market is in its infancy, and we need our colleagues to understand as the roadblocks come up what we need to bowl through, what we need to do, and how we need to work with the Department of Agriculture to maybe ease some of those burdens and make this just like a regular crop, just like corn or wheat or what have you, so that those market chains, those supply chains are existing. And again, I mean, it's an infant industry, and there's going to be stumbling blocks. We saw some last year. We hope to eliminate as many as possible. And for us as a legislature and as an informal caucus, it's going to be our job to stay on top of that. I mean, I don't think that we can pinpoint any one thing because we haven't really gotten in depth with the folks who are active in the hemp industry. And that's what we need to do. And that's going to be the point of our caucus.
And I saw such great synergy when there was a hemp conference in Pennsylvania in Lancaster County last year, and there were just so many players in the field. But how many opportunities do they have to meet? There were a few members of the legislature that were in attendance at that convention. I was there. So that was really where the idea was born, is that we really need an opportunity to get together to really talk about what the opportunities are, how to bring those opportunities into fruition. In the Pennsylvania Farm Bill that was adopted last summer, there's a total of $460,000 in grants that were made available to rural or urban communities. And that's a lot of folks that we can begin to bring those supply chains into existence, to be able to help farmers actually bring the products to market that they have planted. And so we have to really have a good understanding of how to get that done, and that's where the caucus can really help bring those conversations to the forefront and really to come up with really great ideas to make this a world-class hemp industrial hemp place that everyone can point to as a model for the nation. Wouldn't it be nice for us to be a model for the nation of how to manufacture and create supply chains for a new industry?
So the prohibition of cannabis and the war on drugs have had a disproportionately negative effect on people of color. As the hemp industry develops, what can be done at the legislative level to ensure that people of color aren't further disenfranchised? It seems tragic to me that rich white guys are just getting richer from a plant that put a lot of black people in jail, which unfortunately decimated families and communities. Is the hemp industry able to facilitate justice?
I'm hoping so. I am a woman of color, even though when I was first elected, I represented a majority white district. But I think that people are open in a way that they weren't in the 90s to believe in second chances. And now that there's an opioid crisis that has affected more and more people, I think it's humanized all of us to understand that addiction can happen to anyone. And hemp is not, an addictive substance. And it's even further distance from marijuana and CBD because it's really a manufacturing product, and so we can do so many things with the seed, as Russ said, and I just hope that we do not have the same kind of prohibitions that we did wind up putting in the marijuana bill, and really the reason I picked Russ to co-chair this with me. One, he has a great sense of humor, even on things that we totally disagree about. And two, he was really a champion to get medical marijuana. His speeches on the House floor were really inspiring. And so I see a great opportunity for us to come together and create jobs for people that were left out and for people that may need a second chance.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what Margo said. I mean, and back to your original question, I think the entire history of industrial hemp and why it was made illegal is absolutely criminal. I mean, there's no way we can go back and hold Harry Anslinger and William Randolph Hearst responsible for that. But it really was a propaganda campaign that made industrial hemp illegal to begin with. I mean, that had its own racist footing as well because it was like anti-Mexican. So I hope that as we create this new industry, I hope that the barriers to people when we're talking about the potential for excluding people with criminal records that are specifically based on that sort of long-term basis of hemp being illegal, and I hope that we do not disqualify people who may have suffered under the hands of that from actually getting involved in this legitimate industry that could put billions of dollars in Pennsylvania's pockets.
So what are some of the other challenges facing the hemp industry from your perspective right now in Pennsylvania?
Actually, if you don't mind, Margo, I think the biggest challenge right now is getting through this CBD thing. I do see CBD as somewhat problematic. I think it's a great extract, and a lot of people use it. A lot of people swear by it, and that sort of thing. But I think that because it is not, the federal government has kind of dropped the ball as far as I don't want to say regulation because I hate regulation, but as far as monitoring what's being sold out there and what claims are being made, I think that's kind of part of the reason why we've had this kind of bubble and boom with CBD. The other concern I have with CBD is you see these products everywhere, even at your local convenience store and gas station. You see CBD this, CBD that. What I'm concerned about most is what is the source of that CBD? Where is the hemp coming from that's producing that CBD? Is that something that's grown here in Pennsylvania? And, we know that they've used Department of Agriculture certified processes to grow and process that? Is it not contaminated? Has it been independently tested by some laboratory somewhere? Or is this hemp that's coming in boatloads from China, where they plant hemp to mitigate soil problems and to take pollutants out of the soil? And is that contaminating? Look, here's my dream. My dream would be that the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, in conjunction with the legislature, would set up this gold ribbon hemp cultivation and processing system standards by which, and then maybe for every hemp plant that's hemp product that's grown in Pennsylvania, applied like on the lines of a PA preferred thing, like the Keystone hemp symbol or something like that, so that when people are buying CBD products, they see that Keystone hemp label and they go, oh, I know this was produced in Pennsylvania. I know that it's been independently tested. I know that it's not contaminated with lead or mercury or whatever, whatever might come over from China. I want the purest product possible. I want consumer protection. I want everybody to know what's in the product they're buying. And hopefully we can get through that. And then once we do that, then we can focus on, again, what I think is the bread and butter of industrial hemp, which is going to be the fiber and seed.
I do too. I agree with that.
I'm very concerned about consumer safety when it comes to these CBD products that people are buying. I'm not saying that there's something, I have no evidence that there's something that's contaminated out there that's on any particular shelf anywhere, but we don't know.
There's so many other uses for hemp. It's so many other uses for hemp that we're not exploring.
Right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's all right, Margo. I mean, and I don't want our farmers going out and going, oh, I'm going to get rich on CBD, and then just throwing seeds in the ground and not having a supply chain and that sort of thing, and then being stuck over winter with a crop that you really can't sell, or that the price has collapsed for, that sort of thing. I don't like the boom and bubble phase that this is in on the CBD level. And I hope more people focus on the strains that will help us develop the seed and fiber markets.
Yes, and that's what my focus is too. I mean, I think CBD is all the rage right now, but there's so many varied uses for hemp that people aren't talking about, and that we haven't created supply chains for, or manufacturing for, particularly the fiber. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and that's why the caucus is so important and so timely, is that we need to get the word out. We need to increase public awareness about all the uses of hemp, and how we can begin to make it a boom industry in Pennsylvania. And people don't know. And so this is really on the cutting edge. And I really appreciate Russ being a part or being my co-chair on this particular caucus.
Are there other members in the State House in the caucus?
We haven't really sent out the invitation to the first meeting yet. I mean, this has just been this is just in the planning phases. We are getting together. I don't know when we'll be getting together for our first meeting, but we have lined up a couple speakers to address the caucus at our first meeting. We haven't sent out an official notification to the members yet, but I'm sure that plenty of members will show up and be a part of this caucus. Because I know whenever we have several members who have questions about hemp, and whenever they have questions about hemp, they always come to me because they think I'm the expert on hemp. But I'm just a guy who did the first research bill, and I've been trying to follow it as closely as I can. And what I hope to become is an expert. And that's the whole point of this caucus.
Yeah, so we are planning a meeting for March. So we're pulling together speakers. Right now, we've confirmed speakers from outside of the state that are experts on hemp and hemp production. And so we expect a really powerful meeting, first meeting in March, and that's when we'll be asking people to also join the caucus. So our launch meeting is in March. I'm not sure of the exact date. It is a session week, and I'm not sure if it's the first session week in March or the second session week in March. I should have had that for you. But we are doing our initial launch in March during a session week, and we have invited speakers, and my executive director for the delegation has been working very hard on it, and I'm really excited about it, and I know Russ is too.
Yep.
So our listening audience is made up of farmers, hemp farmers here in the state, and actually all over the place. Why should farmers be paying attention to what you're doing, and do you have any specific message for them?
I think the specific message that we would send to farmers is, look, just like any other crop, you need to have a plan for when this crop comes out of the ground. We do want you to proceed, but we want you to proceed with caution and with a little bit of intelligence and armed with some knowledge of what's going to be happening with this market over the coming years. I mean, look, anything that's at the very beginning, and we are at the very beginning of industrial hemp production in Pennsylvania, you're going to be sort of a pioneer. So you have to be willing to go with that pioneer spirit, and along with the great rewards that can come with having a pioneer spirit, there are some risks as well. So we just want farmers to be armed with all the knowledge of not only what they can do with their crop and what this crop can do for them as far as diversifying their farm and supplementing their income. We want them to be aware of some of the risks as well.
All right. Is there anything else either of you would like to share with our audience?
No, we're just really excited about it, and we will be rolling out after we have our initial meeting. I think Russ is very interested in making sure that farmers have the information that they need. So I can envision us going around the state to bring information and present information not only to farmers, but also to manufacturers and to other types of supply chain businesses, to make sure that we have the pipeline in place to make this a world-class industry that is centered in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, I would hope that folks who are interested in this industry just pay attention to the news and pay attention to what we may be doing in this informal caucus, because, as we go down the road in developing this industry further and making it strong here in Pennsylvania, there are going to be surprises that come up. One of the surprises that came up was there was a processing plant out in the western part of Pennsylvania that they started processing, and the neighbors started complaining about the smell. Mm-hmm. And DEP got involved, and they had to make some adjustments at that processing plant. And, thankfully, they're able to work through that. But that was something that just wasn't anticipated. So there's always going to be things that we don't anticipate. They're going to crop up in a new industry like this. And again, I just want to reiterate that I believe that that's going to be one of the great values of this Industrial Hemp Caucus, is that we in the legislature are going to try and stay on top of those kind of things so that we can help to break down roadblocks and encourage every aspect of this burgeoning business.
And I think also Russ and I will be in agreement in not overtaxing the industry as well.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest roadblocks we can put up is some kind of taxation or something like that. And yeah, we want to make sure that the highway to hemp heaven is paved with ease. And and just touching back on one of the greater points that was brought up earlier in this conversation, I think that when you get someone like myself from a very, very rural Republican area, and someone like Margo from the southeastern, which is quite a bit more progressive than we are, that we can work together on a topic, it really builds bridges that we can work together on other topics, especially in today's very, very toxic political climate. And I always look forward to working with someone from the other side of the aisle on any issue possible, so that we can build those bridges, so that we can use those bridges and cross those bridges in the future on different issues.
Absolutely. I agree.
I have witnessed over the past year and a half of making this podcast that hemp thrives in community and has a way of bringing people together. And the work you both are doing is emblematic of that. And so I thank you, Representative Margo Davidson and Representative Russ Diamond. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Margo.
Yes, thanks, Russ, and thanks for having me.
The magic of industrial hemp, bringing Republicans and Democrats together. I love it. All right, next up, we're going to have another one of our Fiberside chats. This time we're going to talk about wood made out of hemp by a company called Hempwood. Here we go. John Crye, welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. Could you give us a brief introduction, please?
Sure, yeah. My name is John Crye, and I'm the I'm in charge of the sales and marketing for Hempwood, which is a new product. We take hemp that grows in about 100 days, and we're making a sustainable alternative to traditional lumber.
Okay.
We try to base it against oak is probably a good comparison. And, an oak tree takes about 40 or 50 years to grow.
And this is a little faster.
We're a lot faster.
Right. So where are you located? Let's start there.
Yeah, we're based in West Kentucky, USA. So a place called
Murray, Kentucky. So what's the origin behind Hempwood? Like, who came up with this idea? How did you develop the process?
It was founded by Greg Wilson, who's the founder of the company. He was one of the early pioneers of bamboo flooring in China, actually. So he's this American guy that speaks Chinese, of course. He moved on from bamboo to eucalyptus, which is another product that you can see at Lowe's and Home Depot. But he knew that the process would work with hemp, and so he decided to patent it and try to do it in the U.S. Farm Bill, early stages, 2014. That's when we knew that there was something there. But that was kind of the early catalyst. Okay, we're going to probably see some legalization in the next couple of years. So we got the patent for Hempwood in 2016, and then the Farm Bill was passed in 2018. And so Greg was, calling around a bunch of different places all over the U.S. and even in Canada. And he called the dean of the School of Agriculture here at Murray State University. And he said, "Hey, I need 10,000 tons of hemp fiber." And the guys over here were able to answer the call. So that's why we chose Kentucky.
So tell me a bit about the sort of product itself. I mean, I understand it's like wood made out of hemp. Sort of, I guess that's like a pressed kind of composite, or what? How was it constructed?
So we take hemp stalks that are about 7 feet long. We have to get it all sorted out, and we dip it in a soy-based adhesive. And we dry it out, and we press it together.
Okay.
And what we get is a piece of wood that it's pretty dense overall. It's a heavy wood, but it performs just like a tropical hardwood.
Can you do like a basic compare and contrast, between hemp wood and tree wood? Like as far as usage goes, like couldn't you use it for any application that you would use regular old wood for?
Well, within the wood world, there's different varieties. There's softwood like pine. You're going to be using that for framing a house. And plantation pine takes about 20 years to reach maturity.
Okay.
It's fast growing, and that's why it has a less density than other old growth wood. And you have the hardwoods like oak, which take a bit longer to grow. They're more dense, and you're not going to be framing a house with oak, but you would be doing, furniture, or, white oak flooring is very popular. Even within the wood world, you're not going to be using the same species for everything. Right. So the way we position hempwood is for it to be used like oak in flooring and furniture.
Okay.
We can do shiplap walls. We can do countertops. Acoustical ceilings are all within the realm of possibility. Also, there's going to be, I think, a lot of people that want to make things out of hempwood. People make, duck calls for all the hunters out there.
So you can carve it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
People have thrown it on a lathe. They made bowls. I was joking with a friend yesterday about making some Fabergé eggs. Our blocks, what we actually produce are blocks that are 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches by 48 inches.
And you wouldn't need any special tools to work with it? I mean, just all the standard kind of wood cutting and.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a woodworker, different species are going to behave differently when you're working with them. So we recommend it's like working with a wood that has more of a fibrous consistency. So you're going to want to have like drill bits that will, when they drill down, they will cut as well as drill.
Okay.
But it also having harder tools, like tungsten or carbide blades are also pretty helpful.
How about finishing? Does it take a stain well? You can paint it okay?
Yeah, you wouldn't really paint hempwood.
Okay. Why is that?
But staining, yeah. Typically, we've seen all different types of stains used, but oil-based seem to perform the best. Okay. But also, the product actually sands really well. I actually just got back from a launch of hempwood at Real Lumber in Los Angeles, and they were kind of building it up for a couple of weeks. What is the mystery product? And they unleashed. They pulled the curtain down, and there was our pallet of wood there, and they had a couple different influencers who had made furniture out of hempwood.
Oh, cool.
They had never worked with it before. And one of the guys was using 1,000 grit sandpaper.
Wow.
Which I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, right.
It's like for polishing glass.
Yeah, that's cool. Are there any special features about hempwood that sort of make it better than wood?
If you're looking for something that's really hard, especially that's a big thing when you're talking about flooring. Mm-hmm. What's the high heel test, right?
Oh, right.
That's definitely appealing, and you can also mess around with it. Like it almost has certain like iridescent qualities. If you look at the face on, it's really fun to play with. Actually, check out the hempwood hashtag. Okay, there'll be a lot of people that have purchased it and have tried making new things out of it.
Cool.
And they just share it. It's become kind of a community.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of neat community happening in the hemp space.
No doubt.
So, yeah. Where do you source the hemp from now? Do you still get it from the university you mentioned?
So Murray State was one of the first people to actually grow hemp in the United States. So they had a head start basically. And some of the students that were there, graduated, and they went on to be the big producers of hemp for not just CBD, but our application, which is industrial.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So we've gotten a lot of, we've worked with them a lot, but also we've gotten calls from all over the country, people, looking to get us our material. And so we will be, looking at that for this upcoming season. We'll be putting contracts into place before the season starts.
Contracts with farmers.
Yeah, we don't want anyone speculating on whether or not they can, sell to us and have them lose out big like they did this year with the CBD.
Yeah, it was a tough year for a lot of farmers this past year. What sort of, like average acreage would one of your growers be growing for you?
Well, if they've never done it before, we typically tell them to start out small. Mm-hmm. 5-10 acres, pretty standard. Okay. For someone that hasn't done it before. Right. We would only really be looking at people that are within 100 miles, because beyond that, the shipping costs get pretty expensive.
Yeah, hemp wants to be local. Are there certain varieties of hemp that you want to use here?
There's a lot of things that are going to work. We're looking for hemp stalks that are going to be have about the diameter of someone's pinky finger. Mm-hmm. That'll work the best for us. We want it all to be uniform material. Okay. The varieties, they can contain, they can be a fiber seed variety. Okay. So the farmers can, harvest the tops of the plant.
Oh, right. Okay.
For the seed. We don't want anything to do with it. We just want the stalks. Right. We don't want to get lost into the, what can be done with hemp. We'll just buy the fiber.
Right. And then they bale it up and ship it to you?
Yep. Round bales, typically about 700 pounds a piece.
Okay. And you don't have to do any like decortication, or what sort of processing happens before you get it into sort of like the wood forms?
We don't process it. I mean, we sort it. We pull out if there are any tops of the plant that are still in the bale somehow, mm-hmm. and we get those out. But yeah, we're using the full stock for our application.
Is there like an easy ratio you can give me, like 1 acre of hemp equals so many board foot of hemp wood?
Man, I would have to do some math on the fly. I can tell you, typically we're seeing 3 to 5 tons of fiber per acre.
Okay.
And we use about 60 pounds per block. I mean, you would still have to say, all right, what's the average yield in whatever field? If you say on the low side, then you give, one impression of people, and you say on the high side, you give another impression.
Right. Getting back to like the sort of motivation that Greg, the founder and inventor, sort of had, why was he looking for a wood alternative?
Well, you see flooring, using oak a lot of the time that's coming from old growth forests. We don't have that many of them left.
Right.
If you're making hemp wood, you're taking away from what would be an oak floor. That means that piece of wood wouldn't get cut down.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably a good thing.
Yeah. How about some of the interesting projects or uses that you're aware of? What sorts of things are people doing out there with hemp wood?
The most interesting, I think, is a spear gun, but that's just because I like scuba diving. Beyond that, the pieces of furniture that have been made this past weekend were really cool. If you look on Real Lumber's Instagram page, you can see all of the pieces, coffee tables, end cabinets. I've seen bows and arrows made. I've seen just so many different things actually at this point.
Yeah. So what are some of the challenges that Hempwood faces? And I guess I mean the company, maybe not so much the product, but like what are you guys up against, and how do you plan to sort of get over those hurdles?
We spent a good amount of energy trying to get a REAP grant, which is a renewable electricity grant.
Okay.
Done by the USDA.
Mm-hmm.
What it means is, our waste product, these little pieces of hemp hurd that fall off, we can just burn them, and that'll be what heats our kilns.
Okay.
So there's grants for this that we were meant to be eligible for, and then because it's hemp, there's just been a lot of maybe red tape, or maybe it just needs more time to develop. But that was definitely something that we thought we were going to get, and we're not able to get. Insurance was another big one. It took hemp companies a long time to have access to insurance programs and even banking.
Right.
But, these are just things from a regulatory standpoint that the path needed to be paved, and luckily with the banking and insurance, that happened over the summer. We really got to give a big thank you to the people that made that happen. A lot of them, were coming from here in Kentucky. Yeah.
So does Mitch McConnell have hemp wood floors in his office in D.C.?
Industrial hemp.
I think he definitely knows about what we're doing.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. We haven't sent him any samples yet.
When you mentioned about using your own waste products to generate heat, made me think, are you able to use any of the sort of waste stream from some of the other parts of the hemp industry? I mean, you said you only want stalk, so I imagine that might be hard, but can you team up with, CBD farms and use some of those stalks?
No, unfortunately, the anatomy of the CBD plant is such that if you try to press them together, it won't stick.
Okay.
We've got so many of these little branches.
Right.
The best application for that is actually going to be like a chipboard.
Oh, okay.
And there's only one company that I know of that's doing that right now.
Who's that?
Canagrove.
Canagrove. Okay. So what are your plans for growth and expansion? How do you plan to move ahead in 2020 and beyond?
The first and foremost thing that we wanted to do was this first pilot plant. And so we just opened up at the end of August. And now we're moving from dimensional lumber to now we're going to get our flooring launched here in the next couple of weeks. And then we're going to do a second shift here, and then we'll end up doing another pressing line. So we're going to build out this factory quite a bit to allow us to do much greater production. And then from there, we're going to expand to the West Coast.
Can people sort of look forward to seeing your products, at Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever you might buy, wood products?
Hopefully one day. But the problem is that when it's a national company, they need a lot of it at one time. People call us all the time. They're like, "Oh, are you that hempwood company that is doing all that stuff?" They expect us to be a big company, and we've got a team of about a dozen people here.
Okay.
We're moving very quickly. But, everything is brand new.
Yep.
So I hope that people keep that in mind.
Right. So what is the best way for people to find your products and purchase your products?
Online, hempwood.com.
Hempwood.com.
Basically, we sell individual boards at a premium. If people want to buy, boxes, which have a little bit more material, that price per board comes down quite a bit.
Okay.
Once we get into a pallet size, that price is basically cut in half to what the individual board price is.
Cool. That's exciting. John, I appreciate your time today.
Hey, thanks a lot, Eric.
All right, there you go. Thank you for listening to today's show. My name is Eric Herlock. I am the digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Check us out at lancasterfarming.com. You can follow us at LF Podcast Hemp on the Instagram, and you can always send me an email to podcast@lancasterfarming.com. Leave me a message too, 717-721-6642. Until next time, I'll see you in the newspaper.
Industrial hemp.
Episode 72 of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2020 by Lancaster Farming, which is part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show was written and recorded, edited and produced by Eric Herlock. The music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tin Bird Shadow.